Yeah, sure.
Okay, welcome everyone. So sorry, we just have done some introductions and are discussing what a beautiful day it is here in Southern Maine. So we are just going to reminder for everybody to submit your per diem forms if you have them, want them by the end of the day, today or Thursday?
Today, actually, we're gonna have them signed today for both days.
Okay, all right. So we do have, I think everyone is aware, we have the agenda kind of broken down in two sections. There's a short sort of business meeting, and then there are two groups of presentations. So there are quite a few items on the agenda. When Laura and I met, I kept saying, are you sure we can do this in a half hour? It's pretty aggressive, but she convinced me, so we will do our best to get through. So the first item on the agenda is the board minutes.
I'm going to accept.
Second and a third. All right, anybody, we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as drafted. Any discussion on that motion? Anybody opposed to the motion?
I need to abstain since I wasn't here.
All right, now we'll pass it on to Laura, who's going to fund the balances.
Yes, thank you. And you see, the slide looks a little different. We don't have any bond funds hanging around. Whether they have technically cleared the account or not, I'm not sure, but they have been journaled, so they're gone as far as I'm concerned. And so you can see this is what we have left in our various, the 40 million. And on the bottom left, you see the interest we have earned. Now that's the total amount. We've allocated that interest to different programs. We have 22,964 in our restricted gifts and a little over 356,000 in our unrestricted gifts.
I'm sorry, Laura. Is the interest earned on the bottom left what we have left of the interest, or?
No, that was the total. That's the total one out of the spreadsheet. And I'll have another slide showing what we have left, because I know that is of interest. Yes. That's all I have for you on this slide. It's easier to see though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here we go. Here we have what's left. This shows you how much is left in each of those funds. On the left side, the numbers down the middle are the total funds. That includes the set-asides budgeted. And on the right, those are what you have to spend on projects. And then you'll see on the bottom, out of that total amount of interest, we have 1.7 million, give or take, unallocated in interest. The others we've allocated to CNR to get round 13 up to 3 million, and the bottom to the farmland to get that zeroed out. Yeah, absolutely.
We have 2,608,000 available in CNR.
That's right.
And then we'll use the interest, some of the interest to bump us up to.
That's right, that's right, and that interest, that 1.7 million, that's the total fund, so of that 1.7 million, we have 1.487 to spend just on project costs, just to acquire, to make awards with. And that puts us well over yeah, I could have done that better.
Yeah. All right, any other questions?
Good, next slide. Okay, and here we have active projects and the allocations for each. These are what we got in the pipeline right now today. Total of 36 projects.
And I think it's really to the previous slide. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I didn't do 12 of the requests of these 12 and how that compares to get to 3 million.
Right, that's okay. You'll see that. The total amount you have to work with is a little over 4 million. And that's more than the total requests.
The requests were 3.2, right?
Yes.
They moved around a little because, yeah, we've got some updated numbers with our slides today. But yes, they're still under what we had.
If we use all the interest.
If we used
a lot of it.
a lot of it, we'd still have some interest left over. Yeah. You'll see these numbers like probably 15 different ways, figure out which way it makes sense. Okay. And you can see the projects that closed in the past, since the last board meeting, and the ones that are queued up to possibly close before the next board meeting in July. So, been busy. Any questions? No? Next slide. All right, this is Joe's to take quickly to save my honor. I said 9:30.
We're only in 10 minutes down.
Yeah.
So this is a request from Mid-Coast Conservancy and Georges River Land Trust, asking for board approval to, for a transfer for the Haystack Mountain property, which closed, just recently, December 2025, January 2025, and the board did get the request from both the Mid-Coast Conservancy and then also recommendation from the Bureau of Parks and Lands. The project agreement under Section 5 does allow for transfer with the DSA and Land for Maine's future board approval. Part 2, Section H, requires 60 days notice, incorporate terms of the PA. So the PA won't change, the PA will remain static, but that will be carried forward and referenced in closing documents. LMF has engaged Tom Federley from Archipelago for counsel to review the list of conditions and also to review closing documents for completeness.
Joe, could you just provide a little history? Was this transfer anticipated at the time we approved the project? I didn't recall that it was.
I don't think so, and I'll just say I came in November when this project was already underway, so I'm not as familiar with some of the history, but this was, this project was a unique project in that the land was under threat for conversion, for development, and an organization stepped in, Friends of Haystack Mountain, and took a mortgage out, purchased the property, and Mid-Coast Conservancy acted as the fiscal agent and to secure that property. So it was a quick process, and I think this was kind of a natural evolution where Georges River, this is their service area. This is more in line with what their programmatic programs are. So I think it was something fairly natural that happened.
Good.
And I'd say both of our, Erica Presley from Mid-Coast Conservancy and Linnea Patterson from Georges River Land Trust are both with us today. So if the board has any questions, they're able to answer those.
I have just a quick follow-up question that I probably should know, but is that provision in there that allows for a transfer with approval, from the board and the DSA? Does that happen for all of our projects have that?
All projects, everything in the project agreement has that language. Yes.
Yeah, our last transfer was 2021, so using that as a template of sorts, and then working with Tom Federley to ensure that we're following the process and all the documents are complete.
Any other questions? Okay. Entertain a motion.
So I move that we approve the transfer and authorize the board chair to sign the consent order and other documentation required to effectuate the requested transfer, subject to all required conditions.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. And I actually prefer the vote in the upfront vote. So everybody in favor, say aye. Unanimous? Go. All right. Bittner.
So Bittner project was preliminary allocated $119,000 on June 2nd, 2022. There has been some reasons for the delay. Bob Bittner, who was, it's his vision from the family, he had passed away, and so Kennebec Estuary Land Trust stepped back, allowed the family to settle his estate, and then his wife has come back into the picture, saying we're still interested in completing this project, and but it has been some time. So we thought it best that they requested an extension for a year to complete this. They have been active. They've been working on a survey. Part of the survey is with the town of West Bath, so they've had some issues securing that line and public access, making sure they have public access. Becky Kolak, the executive director, is also with us today, so if the board has any questions for her, she's available.
Right.
I do have a question about the public access strategy, just curious why it was shifting from the city property on Fairview Lane, ideally over to Austin Road. I wasn't clear about that in the summary.
I think that would be a question for Becky Kolak. And Becky, are you with us?
Yep, she turned on.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So that's a great question. We are utilizing the access through the through West Bath, through our existing Graves Preserve, over town land onto the Bittner parcel, primarily because there's a existing trail system there. The access from Bath through the Fairview Lane property unfortunately has the slight complicating factor of we would need to cross a already impacted wetland there that would need some significant capital improvements before we would feel comfortable inviting the public to cross it. So certainly not something we're going to exclude in future plans, but just something that we feel like would need some really some more time and careful consideration and some planning around building up those capital improvements so that the public can safely access.
Any other questions? Barbara?
I move that we approve a one-year extension of time for KELT to complete the project.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Okay, next up is our Access Improvement Grant Awards for this session. We've received 2 requests since the last board meeting. Request from Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust for expanding trailheads and a main access road on the Great Pond Mountain wildlands. And a request from BPL to upgrade stream, road to the stream crossings accessing the High Peaks Keystones and adjacent lands. Both of these projects closed within the past year, and staff have reviewed the proposals, found they're eligible, they include the required match, so we have a draft motion for you.
Any questions?
I move that we award a total of $50,000 in access improvement funding to the 2 applicants in the amounts requested.
Second?
Second.
Motion in a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Unanimous, great.
All right. All right, let's see how this time frame holds. Okay, hunting and traffic management policies. LMF was approached a little bit back by some land trust representatives wanting some guidance for how they could manage their land with respect to hunting and trapping. And at the same time, Robert Bryan, a representative from, I always get doing the backcountry hunters, thank you, in English, sent the email you have attached in your materials saying, hey, I would really love to see a guide for hunting and trapping policies. And so the first thing we did in response to Mr. Bryan's was to speak to our colleagues at IPW and BPL to learn more, because we know a lot about a lot of things, but not management plans. And so we had a really in-depth discussion with our DSAs and came away fully appreciating the amount of nuance involved in these decisions and the unavailability of cookie cutter, easy pronouncements. There is no absolute, you can always do X answer. And so with the help of a representative from our land trust community, I'll let this person decide whether they want to out themselves or not, we discussed the idea of creating a what not to do guide. And to work together in the what not to do. For example, what not to do. Don't start by assuming there are automatically so many feet of setback from a trail. Don't start by forgetting to talk to the different users in your community and helping them understand each other, helping them know each other exists. Doing that sort of groundwork. And don't forget that you're still under the auspices of your DSAs, in terms of what the terms are. We thought about a nice little preamble for this to reaffirm our commitment to the spirit and the letter of the law. LMF staff are really clear that what our statute means in spirit, for sure, is that unless there are state, federal, or local laws that prohibit hunting or trapping, you have to allow them. It's not, that's it. And so the kind of preamble we imagine capturing the sort of hard line and then the what not to do. And we would love the opportunity to work on this together with our DSA's involvement, if possible, to develop this what not to do guide, which would be well within our area of expertise. But we didn't want to do this without your approval and your knowledge. And this we brought back to you for your review. Nothing goes out into the world that's, brand new policy. So that in a nutshell.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
And I like that they particularly listed rifle hunting. Something that you all may not know is that I'm a former member of the City of Auburn Firearm Discharge Committee. And that was a huge issue for us because of the distance, and Judy's, nodding. It's a totally different situation with rifle hunting. So I think it's an important step forward to discuss this.
Good.
Back to us.
Thank you.
I too was really happy to see all this, and I thought that Rob laid out a really interesting range of questions that people have. And I liked the idea of a how not to guide for sure as a starting point, but it felt feels insufficient to me, that I think if we were able to work with Land Trust to provide some kind of a checklist of considerations to guide towns or in thinking about this issue. And I wasn't quite clear, I think I wasn't reading it correctly, where it says moving forward, we'd like to suggest that Land Trust engage the broader community in shaping the first draft of a management plan. And I wasn't sure, if they weren't meaning for each property, they were meaning a general, sort of a template management plan that could then be tailored.
Probably more directive about that, because really what we want to do is create a what not to do guide that helps them go and do their groundwork, really that. And I think it might be too much to say it's a first draft management plan. We really want to help them get started. Because one of the things, my initial thought when asked this by Land Trust was, well, the DSAs are the ones that are going to be, you just talk to your DSAs. And the DSAs were like, no, please don't do that to us. So don't make us be the traffic cops here automatically. They should do some groundwork and they should use this opportunity to educate. And so I want to back off the idea that they're creating a draft management plan and into that really stick with this is the how not to. And I love, and we also, before we landed on this idea of, I'm sorry, you're not pointing me, how not to guide, staff were thinking that the best we could do was put up some resources for people to use, because we were so clear there was no, definitely you can always do X, right? So I think the idea, the checklist, I think that is the thing we could easily incorporate into the resources, anything to help educate, help our different users educate one another and come to understand what it means to accept LMF funds means a broad user group. Thank you.
So, do we need a motion?
I would love that official authorization.
I have not a motion, but I also love the idea of it and the principle. And I'm just curious from a user perspective, if I was stepping into a role to receive this, if it might feel different to me if it said like, please remember to, rather than how not to.
Yes.
I wonder if we could rephrase it also more as a
Yes.
positive to be like, remember that.
Yes,
You know?
we can. And the reason we hit upon the how not to is because we were so reacting to the idea there is no, you can't just say it's always such and such fees, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, we'll play around with the phrasing and making sure it feels like a positive thing.
We're opening
not
the door.
naughty.
We're not shutting the door. We're like
Right.
making this more accessible.
Exactly.
At the risk of endangering our time
Oh,
frame,
dear.
I do want to mention something, dogs.
Dogs, yes.
Yeah, it talks here about, the impact of human activities. Well, humans with dogs have a very different impact than others. And it also gets into the dogs on a leash versus not. Obviously, a hunting dog's not going to be on a leash. Others presumably are in many instances, not always, but,
Right.
and as we all know, humans on reserves with their supposedly leash dogs
I know.
violate all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That's right. And we don't have any illusions that we're going to create a management plan, but point well taken. And that's a thing to ask people to think about hard. Yeah.
There a motion?
I move that we direct the LMF staff to engage with representatives of different user groups and agency staff to develop a guide for the management of LMF-funded land for board review.
Second?
All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Well, I will share that after Rob's initial email and some back and forth.
Oh,
No good deed goes unpunished, so Laura and I said, do you think he would be a good person to serve on the board? So I did approach him to see, he's thinking about it. So
Okay.
I just suggested that he
okay.
clearly interested, has some background, some passion around this, and perhaps he would consider stepping up and serving on the board. And he thought, well, he said, I'll think about that. He's pretty busy, but, so.
Is there a current vacancy?
Yeah.
Thank you, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I would have seen how
You should think quickly, because it's only a month left to go.
yeah, we won't get it done this session anyway. Yeah, I was thinking about that last night with OHF too. We won't have it this session.
Okay. Joe, next, sorry, okay, this is the one that's gonna blow my time with this, I'm afraid, but, so this is pretty straightforward though, I mean, this is just the culmination, you saw the memo, for the first time ever, I quoted AI in a memo, I for trying to find the rationale for some of these things, and still believe that when it comes to municipalities, our rationale for having time limits is not, I can't really find a good one. And so this is for you to be like, yep, I think this could really enable a lot more municipalities to protect a lot more land than currently. And my principal familiarity is with the town of Brunswick. We've encountered this twice now, and they clearly love this as a tool to protect land. And again, if you don't do something permanent with it as a town, one board can unilaterally undo what the other one did. So this is the way to protect land permanently. So I'll be quiet and see if we can still keep our time.
All right, but so
Any questions? Yeah.
any questions? Yeah, Jody?
Of the past projects that were listed under 2B, am I understanding correctly that all of those 3 were town-owned?
They were town-owned, let me make sure, yes, they were town-owned, I think all my examples were town-owned. And I would have had a hard time finding others, it's not like a thing, a data point I can search very readily. But yes,
And have we ever extended a time limit for projects that were not going to?
I don't know of any, and that doesn't mean there aren't any, but I don't know, I didn't withhold anything.
Yeah.
I would not, no.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, so this is just for municipalities?
Yes.
And just explain to me your thinking about this would only be available to municipalities.
So because land trusts have their own accreditation and their own mission that compels them to, when they acquire a piece of land, to try to keep it permanently protected. For the most part, there are some, minor opportunities where that's, not the case, but that's always in the larger context of our mission is to protect land permanently. So when a land trust pre-acquires, the 2-year time frame that we give them does a good job of balancing our interest in making sure our money goes to protect something new and giving them sort of responsibility for upholding their missions. We don't refund all, 2 years seems reasonable. For a town, they're not in that position at all. When a town acquires a thing, as has happened now, to my knowledge, twice with Brunswick, it lands in their lap. And it isn't often in these 2 situations, not a thing that a town necessarily even bought. They acquired these lands. Those islands were just tax takings. And the protection that attaches when land is acquired by a town is 0. It's absolutely 0. It's no different than if you or I owned it. And so that is the rationale. I don't know if I'm, and that was that your question? Like the distinction between the 2 bodies?
I understand that. I guess I'm just thinking sometimes there is sort of an opportunistic buyer who then, wants to transfer it to a local land trust, but a land trust doesn't have the immediate wherewithal to go through everything and raise a match and go through LMF and do everything.
Yeah.
And so I guess I was just thinking of that sometimes there would be an opportunistic buyer who would be acting in good faith and then wanting to have a land trust, a local land trust buy. I mean, we just had an example of a transfer that's different. I
Exactly.
understand that, but.
Well, it's a good point though, Barbara, because we often have, like, Ducks Unlimited, if there's a urgency to a project is another entity, because our process takes so long, that would come in and acquire the property with the understanding that state is then going to work toward raising the funds and getting the grants. And I think we usually do accomplish that within 2 years, but, I mean, it's not inconceivable that that same thing might happen for a land trust.
Yes, and you still have the authority to waive for it. You can still be.
Oh, we can.
Yes, absolutely. You always have the authority to extend the time frame for a land trust. I just thought that it would be probably useful for towns in planning and thinking about what they might do, particularly some of our, the towns, the areas where they always struggle to find match. If they've already acquired property, the match is implicit right there. And that these parcels could be a source of some security for them, and that money then could be used to steward these parcels along with protecting them. So you always have that authority to extend, and this is what you've done so far with all these towns, New Brunswick. Yes, sir. And Wells.
Is there a flip side to this where one town may be finding the hands of the next, group?
Well, if it's protected, it is definitely binding the hands of the next group, which is kind of the point. That if one board says, we want conservation, and they get that done, the next board can't say, we don't want that as conservation. That is certainly true. That is certainly true, and that would be a political evaluation each town board has to make. But we do hear very clearly towns say things like, we don't need to protect it with LMF because we've already protected it, but they haven't put anything down on it. So it's for now, but yes, it does.
Does that put LMF though yes?
No, I don't think so, because it's always the responsibility of that town to decide. We assume they're duly elected. I mean, that's true for every project we ever brought by a town, right? Every single project we ever fund from a town has that potential. So I don't think it shifts that at all, that sort of perception of LMF.
I'm generally supportive of this idea, but I'm curious if we have any information on municipalities across the state that, with any degree of frequency, actually sell town land to private ownership, and that those lands get developed. And I'm only thinking because of living in Pownell for over 30 years, and while they could, the town never has, and there would be, I think, tremendous uproar if it did.
Right.
So I'm just curious, is this an issue?
Is it?
We have in Search, I mean, they have in our town.
Have sold?
The town, yep, they
Yeah.
had a salt and sand shed that was town owned, and then they sold it to a private person who put housing on it. But I mean, it was, that was town land, that it can definitely happen.
Yeah, one of our projects was a project that had been owned by a town and then sold, and then has come back to us. But that was, it certainly went through some changes. So it can happen, yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Not to hold Brunswick out again. Brunswick did acquire a huge piece of land to protect McCoy Bay, and they have as yet decided what to do with that huge piece of land. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of people who have ideas. So I think it's a very real concern. So I think this is good, and I think it's just important for us to remember that we, in individual circumstances, we have this option to extend this, whether it be to a state agency or an opportunistic buyer or whatever. We have discretion.
Okay. Barbara?
I move that we remove pre-acquisition time limits for municipalities.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Great. All right, staff updates.
Oh my gosh, yes, okay, so, biggest update is that we thought we were hiring for my old position, working waterfront position, which is entirely funded by NOAA, federal funding. And so we had, I can tell you, we were barreling down the road. We had a fabulous pool of applicants to die for, which is not surprising because it's really, and a lot of them, and we needed to stop. We were told we can't onboard anybody right now. There's too much uncertainty. So that is a bummer. Which just, if you have any influence with anybody ever, this means we absolutely have to get those limited period positions made permanent, or LMF staff will consist of me and Jason. And we're good, but we're not that good. So So that was a bummer. And the next time, what's that?
How many limited term positions?
Two, we have two, Julia and Joe are both limited, so you're looking at me and Jason.
Yeah.
Man.
When do they expire?
When do they expire?
June
Well,
30.
June 30th, we've got funding through November, it's that kind of, like, all the signs look good.
Yeah, you can extend those by financial order.
Oh, good. Yes.
Did you put it in the budget?
Yes, it's in the budget,
Oh.
it's in the budget, oh, yes, thank you, yes, yes. They just have to pass the budget, yeah, that's all. Before we do the scoring, at the next meeting we have on Tuesday, we're gonna have the qualitative discussion Matt has been wanting to have, and that has been overdue for a long time. And this is probably a good place for me to remind you all of what to do with your scoring today. You're gonna be scoring as you go today with what you have. And then be sure to get your scores to Jason by the end of the day. Your scores. Any questions about that? And the status of LD 1072, a fiscal note was attached. Oh no, which is bad. This is the death of a bill. We're working to see if we can't salvage it. It was an omnibus bill. It has three pieces. It has the changes to the conservation easement registry. It has the housekeeping updates to the LMF statute, and it has the option to purchase at agricultural value. That's the one that got the fiscal note because it conceivably engaged the AG's office for time. So we're working it as best we can. Yeah. So I totally blew our time frame, 9:37.
Good. All right. So now round 13, conservation recreation proposals. So we're gonna go right into, we're gonna take a break.
I guess Joe, is the next slide a break? I think it is.
We've got a
Oh, no, after the
consensus scoring
scoring guidelines.
overview and ground rules, and then there's a break slide.
Okay, sorry, thank
Okay.
you, sorry.
All right, then, so. Can you go back to the other 5 minutes? Yeah, so just a reminder for this next two sections, we're gonna have 5-minute presentations and 5 minutes for question and answers. There are a lot of projects, so I am gonna hold people to the 5-minute presentation and plus that 5 minutes for question and answer for each one. Jump ahead. And then consensus scoring guidelines, you can all read this, but the goal of scoring and evaluation process is to ensure fairness and objectivity in the review of proposals and ensure the funds that are awarded to bidders whose proposal is best satisfies the criteria. RFP, workbook. And each of us have to take notes, put their name on the scoring notes, and then before we leave today, give them to the LMF staff.
And if you need more time to finish your scoring, just get to me by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I'll collect those today.
Okay. So, does everybody bring those? So those, no, that's fine, we all, sign and bring it to staff. So consensus scoring, statute indicates if a change of bias or personal financial interest, direct or indirect, is filed against a member requesting that a member to withdraw from a proceeding with the board, that member shall determine whether or not to withdraw and shall make that determination part of the record of the proceeding. It's okay to abstain from scoring or participating in the discussion of a particular project at your discretion. This is what helps the board maintain a transparent, predictable process and maintain program integrity. So the process, I think everybody's read through, oh, no problem. Oh, this is.
Oh, yeah.
So generally, we all have our scores, and then we come up with them individually, and then when we'll listen to the presentations, you might adjust your scores based on the presentation. Then on Thursday, we'll get together and come up with a consensus score, one score from the board for each project. And we'll present all of those separate little categories. Good. So the public is welcome to attend the scoring session. This is a working meeting. Board members may direct questions through the applicants, through me. The board chair will indicate the appropriate time when the public comment regarding the proposal may be provided. And the proposals are confidential until scored. This prevents undue influence on the board through the scoring process, is in accordance with state Maine purchasing policies. Board members will refrain from discussing proposals with applicants, the public, or members of the press. Scoring is based on the information contained in the proposal applications. Those here to observe will avoid any actual or appearance of attempts to influence the scoring process. Likewise, board members will refrain from asking questions of the public. Conflict of interests, LMF statute says if a charge of bias or personal financial interest, direct or indirect, is filed against a member requesting that member withdraw from the proceeding of the board, the member shall determine whether or not to withdraw and shall make that determination part of the record of that proceeding. The board will endeavor to stick to the agenda and avoid broader topics that may not be relevant or related to its work process. All right, now we can have a quick break. Let's just try and be back in order up, like a 3-minute break. Kind of behind you, might need to use the restroom. Do that.
Yeah, it's too bad. I never watched TV on Saturday afternoon, but I was watching Virginia Dad. You were there.
Oh,
The farm.
the no-till.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Kind of rude.
Video, I'm glad they're still showing it. 3 years, maybe it was fine. When the bed really develops, then when you talk about these, in a second section, it'll be like, and this will be like now.
Great.
I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
So in this swell kind of movie, yeah, that was a really memorable, early in my career, like summer trip. That was incredible. Yeah.
That's the key question. Actually, yesterday,
every now and then I'll get some calls. Oh, busy,
new staff. Find something.
Yeah, easy was just the two. And we had. Even there weren't, it's gonna be weird because it's already available. Go do this thing, whatever we his boat's right there, It's a pretty smell.
Does he have any?
I think he's got some sort of,
that works sometimes.
but they definitely come. Let's make way for Alright, so he sent a picture of it. It's a glorified closet.
Absolutely. But that's
When we were interacting.
And it's super
Last 10 years. Signing a letter.
Judy gave me the okay. All the 5 minutes. That'll be new.
Yeah, you know, my dad was the same way. He retired in 74, so. Those guys that eating lunch every day.
We're ready to.
Like he was.
city staff now.
Continued working, but it's a domain.
All right, I think we're gonna reconvene for folks online. We're kind of getting ourselves sorted here and we'll begin momentarily with our first presentation. So Jason's gonna keep the time for the folks online, I'll keep the time for us with questions. So we're gonna start off with bridge.
Scott, just let me know when you want me to advance the slides, okay?
Okay, yeah, you can do it like maybe every minute or so. Thank you. Great, well, thank you everybody for inviting me to present here today. My name is Scott Kunkler. I'm the Conservation Director with the Scarborough Land Trust. We're requesting funding to purchase and conserve 60 acres of forests, wetlands, grasslands, and frontage along the Nonsuch River in Scarborough. And we feel that this is an important property for us, a very important property for us to protect, which we'll discuss a little bit here in the presentation. But I think to fully understand why this property is so important, we need to start with Scarborough, the town of Scarborough, which has transitioned over the years from a small rural community of about 3,000 people to the 8th largest community in the state. We're just behind cities such as Portland, South Portland, Saco, Biddeford, Lewiston, Auburn. And so soon every large parcel left in Scarborough will be conserved. And that's not because the land trust is going to be able to conserve every large parcel that's left, but more because every large parcel that's not conserved will eventually be subdivided into 2-acre minimum lot sizes. So we're working very diligently to protect those last remaining, those most valuable properties that remain in Scarborough. And for us, that means properties along the Nonsuch River, which that's our Nonsuch River focus area. Because of the important values, we've designated a focus area, and those are all properties that have been conserved or will be conserved. Our Beach Ridge Preserve is this one right here, the green right there. It's kind of, as you can see, we're hoping to fill a gap here in the Nonsuch River area. We've done a great job with the state down in the lower reaches of the Nonsuch. We have preserved here, the town has preserved in some other areas. And so now we're looking to fill in those last remaining gaps. And we focused on the Nonsuch River because it's the longest river in town. It spans the entire length of Scarborough. It provides the largest input of fresh water to the Scarborough Marsh, which is the state's largest saltwater marsh. It's considered part of an aquatic core network by Nature's Network, supporting a broad diversity of aquatic species and ecosystems. It's considered part of a freshwater resilient and connected network by the Nature Conservancy, which has said that it's established to protect it due to its resilience and recognized biodiversity value. It is the largest wildlife corridor in Scarborough as it spans across town along the river. It's home to a large diversity of birds, mammals, wild brook trout, and other native fish. It's a priority for conservation for the town of Scarborough in its comprehensive plan. It's considered high-value open space by the town's open space plan. And for all those reasons, we have created the Nonsuch River Focus Area to bring awareness of the importance of the river to the town. And we feel like this property, Beach Ridge Preserve right there, with its wetlands, grasslands, shrubby areas, intermittent streams, forests, and river frontage, will support all those values that I just mentioned for our focus area. And we're interested in partnering, or we will be partnering with IF&W on managing the property for the main species of concern wood turtle, as well as the main endangered New England cottontail, which we hope we'll be able to have on the property. But it will also allow for an important recreational opportunities for residents in Scarborough and in adjacent communities, because this property is located within about a 20-minute drive from over 200,000 residents in Maine. It will provide some of the last remaining areas for residents to hunt and fish and hike and observe wildlife. We hear from hunters all the time and from hikers all the time that our preserves are crowded and that we need more areas and opportunities, because these conserved areas in town are going to be the last areas. They're going to be the only areas that remain for things like, because everything else will be developed. And I've included some quotes in the application of some from our hunters talking about that. It will give more opportunities for residents to connect to the outdoors on a daily basis, after school, after work, for those that can't travel 2, 3, or 4 hours to other parts of the state to be able to recreate. I was just walking the property recently with someone who said, and I'm paraphrasing what they said, and they said, you know, when you're back in there, when you're back in Beach Ridge Preserve, right in the heart of Scarborough, you get absorbed into the place. The trees, the wetlands, the river, the animals. You lose sense of the outer world when you're back there. You're right there in the moment with nature, right in Scarborough. And so we want to be able to offer that experience to all residents forever. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So, any questions of the board? Barbara?
I believe, Scott, that the Nonsuch is navigable by canoe pretty much the whole length. Is that correct?
It is navigable. There's trees blowing down, so that would have to be either cleared or dealt with. But yeah, people have navigated, I know at least for the first half of the river, you know, all the way up to like the turnpike area. I know of people that have gone back there and we're trying to develop a blue trail actually that follows the Nonsuch River. And then hopefully we'll be able to just keep moving the start spot further upstream as we go.
And would there be access for hand-carry canoes in this property or not?
Probably not initially, like not at this point, but that would definitely be something we'd be working towards.
I was struck by the 3,100 feet of frontage on the river. That must be counting both banks?
It probably is, yeah. It's a number I got from Fish and Wildlife Service. They do an analysis on the river frontage and number of wetlands, acreage of wetlands, and that's what they had on it. So I think that probably is both sides.
Yeah, it looks like it must be. In the northeast, it looks like to count the north side of the river is just a sliver.
Mm-hmm.
How wide is that? The riparian buffer that you would protect all that?
You know, I haven't measured it out in feet, but I would say it's you know, this is a 60-acre property. So, you know, the river cuts through in here, and then the river also kind of cuts over here, so we'll have some acreage on this side of the river as well. You know, so probably, I don't know, maybe that's 5 acres, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well,
yeah,
doesn't look quite like that here, but anyway,
okay.
That's all right.
It's probably
too in the weeds for conversation now.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation and for the application. I just had a question about increased hunting, fishing, and trapping opportunities, and also that the land trust will be building additional trails for recreational access. And just in light of the conversation that we had before entering into these presentations, what you think is the likelihood that there would be an increased opportunity for hunting, just to, in terms of balancing those objectives?
So there are hunters that use the property already, because the owners have, have allowed a number of hunters. I think they've got 3 hunters right now that they allow on the property to hunt. We have properties that size in Scarborough that we allow for hunting on. There's other properties I'm working on, some other conservation opportunities of like 60 acres where they have 3-4 hunters on those properties. And that's because those are regulated by the landowner, as to the number, right, that they feel comfortable having out on their property. We wouldn't be regulating the number of people that would be allowed on the property for hunting. But I think it would offer that, even if it's offering 3 or 4 or 5 hunters, it's another 3 or 4 or 5 hunters that aren't pressuring the other properties that and this is just like one piece in the whole puzzle, right? We're just keep adding and adding and, as best as we can.
Thank you.
And am I correct in remembering that the town of Scarborough has a firearms ordinance, so shotgun only in Scarborough? Or
I believe that's correct, yeah, it's shotgun only. Yeah, the distances, we just get concerned about the distances with rifles.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm Jennifer Brockway with Somerset Woods Trustees. Thanks for having me in today, and thank you as well. We closed on Whitten Woods just about 2 weeks ago, so thank the board for your support of that project. It's going to be one of those career projects for me, I think, so thank you. But today I'm here first to talk about Black Point. This is an iconic parcel on Lake Westernonset in Madison that has been used by generations of the lake community for recreation, quiet, solitude, misadventures of youth. It's that place that everybody goes to, everyone has a story about in the Madison Skowhegan area. And so about 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to, the land changed hands through generational transfer. We got wind of it, and the landowners were up talking to realtors, and we had an opportunity to get in front of them as well. And 2 years down the road, we have a purchase and sale agreement to purchase this piece of land for the community. So 130 acres on the lake. It's the largest remaining undeveloped parcel. Close to 4,000 feet of undeveloped frontage now that we have the survey in hand. Tremendous wetland waterfowl habitat, waterfowl habitat. Plans increasing in trails and outdoor programming long-term, but immediately it's just securing this extensive water frontage. And could you change the slide for me? Thanks. Again, this expanse of undeveloped wetlands and waterfront that is really just conserving this large tract on the lake that is this iconic parcel with habitat values, recreational values, and increasing water access for the community. So existing access from, again, this piece extends from the lake up to 201. So you've got ready road access, and there's an interior access road that brings folks to the lake and 2 public access points from the water as well. So we are working with the town of Madison. They're pleased because this is protecting their lake water quality, which is a major component of their tax base, and also providing access to the lake for their community residents, which they really don't have now, other than these 2 postage stamps boat launches. The Lake Association is thrilled because it's this location, again, that everyone has enjoyed for generations, and they all have stories, and they are appreciative of conserving it for them. And for Somerset Woods, we are thrilled to be conserving this tremendous habitat values. Long-term, we look to develop kind of a boardwalk situation where we can have an outdoor classroom. That's the next capital campaign. So initially, there are existing trails to get folks to the water. There's existing trails to get folks, so this is Black Point here. So this is the very special place. We should have a picture here, but there are existing foot trails to get people from there to Black Point. Currently, the only way to get to Black Point is from the water. So this kind of changes the dynamic and allows a greater percentage of the community to get out and appreciate this really special place. Again, where everyone has just been, ever since this project started, everyone's coming forward with their stories. Some of them are, all of them are relatable. Some of them are great for public sharing. Some of them are not. We all know this place, right? You all have one in your community, and this is it for Madison. So we are looking to LMF to finish the public fundraising portion of the project. With an LMF award, we will have all of the acquisition funds in hand, and we continue to raise the stewardship and improvement dollars. It's been a pretty straightforward project for us, and we're excited to get it moving. I'll also add that town of Skowhegan is pretty excited about this. We're 7 miles from the town of Skowhegan, I believe, in town of Skowhegan. And so this parcel is just another piece that is adding to Skowhegan's effort to brand themselves as an outdoor recreation hub. And so they're looking to partner with us and collaborate in building those trails and to use the parcel as outdoor location for their workforce development program. Main Street Skowhegan is launching training for trail builders and other outdoor industry leaders. And so this piece is right in the backyard and feeds into that regional effort. So it kind of just fits for everybody in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, I do have a question. Are there, you mentioned that it's kind of the place where everybody goes. Is there an existing parking lot?
It's the place everyone goes now from the water.
From the
So
water.
they're accessing it from the 2 boat launches.
Yeah.
It had been just the one official boat launch until earlier this year, we worked with the town of Madison and the Lake Association to formalize an additional carry and boat access point. There is an informal parking area on 201 now that is not publicly accessible, but we will be utilizing that once we take ownership and improving that so that folks have access.
And I think I heard you say this, but I wasn't told, but you did indicate that you were gonna create some trails to get people at least close to the water.
Yes, so currently there is foot trails that are appropriate for hiking and biking.
Yep.
To get people to the water. Now, long-term, we would love to see an extension of that system.
Yeah.
There are old forest management roads that we can use now, but getting out into the wetland, which is absolutely phenomenal and is the real jewel of this parcel. Figuring out how to have a larger project so that we can have a boardwalk or the lake, get folks out there. That's the longer term view.
Great. Anyone else have questions? Not seeing any. Thank you very much.
I'm still up here. You don't get to get rid of me.
You're next again. I'm going to switch over. So,
Settle down a little bit for this one. So this is Gilman Stream in East New Portland. So New Portland is where we closed on Whitten Woods 2 weeks ago. So this Whitten Woods was the very first public access parcel in the town of New Portland. Thank you for that. This will become number 2. And the town is as excited about this one as they were about Whitten Woods. So still room for us to do good work. 177 acres with 1,900 feet on Gilman Stream. Tremendous Gilman Stream. If no one's ever paddled it, I encourage you to do so after this meeting. It's just absolutely stunning stretch of water, brook trout habitat, documented brook floater, and cobblestone and Appalachian tiger beetles, which are endangered and special concern beetles, I think have not been documented in Gilman Stream, but have been documented in the Carabasset River. So this Gilman Stream, this parcel is located just above the confluence with the Carabasset River. So you're kind of in the heart of this really rich, ecologically rich segment of the Carabasset. And that is a focus area for Somerset Woods. So adding this piece in adds to the ecological values of what we're trying to do on the Carabasset, but it also adds tremendous recreational values. This piece provides a traditional water access point to Gilman Stream. And again, because it's just above the confluence with the Carabasset, you're also accessing the Carabasset and a stretch of the river where there isn't any other access. And we are working on securing a downstream primitive takeout. It's about 2.5 river miles downstream in Anson. So it makes for a really nice Carabasset River trip, or you can do it up and back into the North New Portland of the Gilman Stream Dam. Also tremendous and critical infrastructure for the local snowmobile system. This property is all 4 corners of the Parsons Bridge over Gilman Stream on Katy Crotch Road. And 3 of those 4 parcels that sandwich that bridge have snowmobile trail segments on it. It is the hub for the whole local region. So you have support in the application, you have support from the Wire Bridge Snow Travelers, the local snowmobile club. They've committed financially to the project and are helping us do fundraising within the community because this piece is just so important to their ability to keep that trail network functional and intact. And then because it's right in East New Portland Village, it's within easy walking distance of the folks who live there. The Snowmobile Club will be grooming more trail than just the snowmobiles so that we have more access for everyone to use it, but then those trails are available year round. It also connects with the New Portland Fairgrounds, so there's an interest in building a trailhead from that location and partnering with the Lions Club who helps with the fair to increase access. As I said, it's supported by the Snowmobile Club, the town, both the planning board, the comprehensive planning committee, and the select board are all enthusiastically in favor. They are supportive of our work to increase the amount of conservation land along the Carabasset River and Gilman Stream generally, but this piece in particular is a high value to them. For the recreational assets I've stated already, and from our perspective at the Land Trust, we are really focused on conserving water quality in Gilman Stream, and so the opportunity to conserve 177 acres of working forest that's been really carefully managed for 50+ years. It's a natural opportunity for us, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to go after it. In this case, LMF funding is probably a make or break for the project. We are starting to secure the match. The landowners are doing a bargain sale, but this is a community that is not as isn't as easily able to support the land conservation work that we're doing. Public investment is absolutely critical to making this happen. So having LMF award available as match for other funding opportunities will be really important to getting this one across the finish line. Thank you.
Yeah, Barbara. Jennifer, I noticed in the proposal you intend to install gates to be open for snowmobile traffic, but I assume that's to prevent other motorized vehicles like ATVs that might do some damage to the trails on this property. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's one segment in particular that is a popular truck route at this time.
Truck route?
There's clearly been some pickup trucks that have gone in, so we haven't quite tracked down the destination where they're headed, but there's definitely a traditional use. This is a property where the landowners have not been in the community for quite a number of years, and so it's just become that folks have been using it and appreciating it for all sorts of reasons.
So I'm correct that going forward, you would install gates and it, so it would be for, what, people walking bikes or no bikes?
Bike strollers,
Non-motorized
like we
bikes.
try to design our gates so that folks can get in with their strollers or if they have mobility devices, like we want to have that level of access. But we prefer
No motorized.
no motorized unless we have a partnership with a local entity that can help us manage that.
A question not specifically about the project, but about the organization. I noticed in the previous application, there was a note that there hadn't been a recent audit, and I didn't know how frequently that is typically done. So just thinking about the health of the organization as a whole.
So we are in the process of accreditation, so auditing will just become part of our annual life very soon. But we haven't had an audit. Somerset Woods is nearly a 100-year-old organization, formed in 1927 by community benefactor Louise Coburn, and really just focused on beautifying and benefiting the Skowhegan community. In the last 15 years, it's really kicked up as more of an active conservation entity, and adding its first staff, and now we're at 3, we're soon to have 4, and really, again, moving towards accreditation. So in a very active maturing of the organization in a short period of time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Seeing many. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next, I think on my list is Fox Pond. Fox Pond.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dylan Hertzberg. I'm the Land Protection Coordinator at Great Works Regional Land Trust. And today I'm talking about Costas Pond 8, which is a 24-acre fee acquisition that we're requesting $50,000 from LMF. Currently, this property abuts 385 acres of land that's already conserved by Great Works Regional Land Trust around Costas Pond. We have conserved 58% of Costas Pond shoreline. And this property sits within a 3,472 acre unfragmented habitat block within the Mount Agamenticus statewide focus area. This is Great Works' 8th conservation project around Costas Pond since 1993. And we were in talks with the landowner. He's an older gentleman who would really like to see this property conserved. It's been in his family since 1960, where he and his father managed the property as a woodlot. He's had some offers from developers, but still moving forward with wanting to have this land conserved. He currently allows neighbors and people in the community to use the property for hiking, hunting, and horseback riding. There are old woods roads throughout the property, which connects to further woods roads which lead around Costas Pond, and there's a historic, it's called the Vanny Row Homestead, which is a cellar hole and an old well, which is a cool historical feature of this property. According to Maine Natural Areas Program, there's potential habitat for landings and spotted turtles and New England cottontail on this property, though a formal survey has not occurred. There are 4 significant vernal pools on the property and a significant vernal pool on an abutting property along Road Fields, which is a cul-de-sac, small development on the side of the property. Through our Road Fields property, that is where we anticipate having public access. There's street parking spaces currently for 4 to 5 cars. Pretty easy access to get out to the property and get onto the trails which already exist out there. And this property also comes with a 50-foot right-of-way, which will provide our first deeded access from Route 91, which will help with management on the property and also help access our other properties around Costas Pond. Currently, we've obtained a purchase and sale agreement with the landowner, and we anticipate completing our due diligence this summer. We have a grant application in with an anonymous foundation who is very interested in this project, though their funding is contingent on, the LMF grant. So they would like to see, us get awarded some funds, before they make their final decisions. And, the property contains, some beautiful streams towards the, northern end of the property that flows into Cox's Pond. Cox's Pond is known to be sensitive to nutrient loading, and development of this property would likely increase runoff into Cox's Pond. The property is known to be habitat to neotropical bird species and birds of prey, and the vernal pools are kind of scattered around the property, which is very beautiful to see. Well, I've got my notes.
Great. Thank you. I have a question, and I'm sorry if you covered this already, but with Fox Pond, and then it looks like there's two existing parcels and then this third parcel. What's the total acreage of those three combined?
Those three combined, meaning these three right here?
Yeah, it looks like on this map here, it says like Cox Pond Eland, Cox Pond C.
Of all the land kind of connecting to this property, there's a total of, what did I say, 385 acres.
Any other questions on the board?
You mentioned New England cottontail habitat. Where is the closest place they've documented?
And this on the MNAP map, they've documented habitat in this region over here, and then this kind of buffer area kind of shows. It overlaps a little bit onto the property, but a formal survey is yet to be conducted on this property.
What's the primary habitat?
The primary habitat, there are, it's mostly a forested property with kind of mixed hardwoods and softwoods. The vernal pools throughout the property provide habitat for, landings, turtles, and spotted turtles, and salamanders, frogs.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of following up on Matt's question about cocktails, and surely cocktails aren't known to be in kind of forested areas.
Yeah, or you're not proposing cutting the forest to make it
No, we're not proposing that. No, we're not proposing that.
So it's not, in that sense, it's not really potential cottontail habitat.
Barbara?
We all understand how robust the real estate market is in York County. Could you just tell us again the potential threat for development on this property and how real that is?
So this property is kind of situated in a location where, the landowner has received several offers from developers, who are interested in buying this property. Kind of on the south here, you can kind of see there are a few developments that have kind of come in, and with this right of way, it's not impossible that they could potentially, build a road and put a development out in that section. There are a lot of these kind of developments starting to branch off of Route 91 in South Berwick, and there's a map in the proposal which kind of shows some nearby areas that have kind of come to that date of development off of Route 91, just across the street from the property. You can kind of see some of the roads coming off down here on this map, but there's a better map in the proposal.
You all set, Barbara? You good?
Pardon me?
You all set with your question?
Yes, thank you.
I noted in the application, and you mentioned it in your presentations, the, near the old foundation.
Yeah.
So are you gonna keep that, or?
We'll make sure it's made safe. Yeah, we don't want anyone falling into the well, but it is a little hard to find when you're out there, but we'll ensure that, it's safe and that people know that it's not something that you can just fall right into.
Yeah, great. All right, any other? think you're up next again, right?
Actually,
Oh,
Tim is
sorry.
talking up for me.
Substitute.
Straighten them out.
My name is Tim Smith. I'm a volunteer. I'm the project manager for this conservation project, White's Marsh Brook. It's 100 acres, and it's within our Mount Agammon Sea Conservation Area, which you can just see a little bit of the edge of all that work that's been going on. We've protected in the last 30 years over 15,000 acres in this area through a partnership of state, federal, and local and state land trust. So this is kind of like a conglomeration of work that's coming together with, proceeding with Dylan's project, which is, Dylan's project is right here, this project is right here. Again, at 100 acres, this is one of the larger remaining parcels we have. If you look at this map, you see we're putting together a lot of small parcels to do this. LMF funding is very important to this project. The landowner finally did sign the purchase and sales agreement. I think we countersigned it yesterday. But one of the things is that he was Eastbrook Timber up in Brownsville, Maine, and he's a businessman. He didn't want to tie up this property if we can't go through with it, because he's got other options he's working on. And the purchase and sales agreement has an out. If we do not get LMF funding, he has the ability to opt out of the contract. Next slide. Excellent, okay. Is there another slide there? Where the habitat slide? Oh, there we go. Okay. So you can see this is the area of the rare animals, and again, Dylan spoke a lot about that. This area is out there, sort of at the bridge. It sort of sits by itself. We do have one conservation land property next to it. It has been harvested, but not unreasonably so. They actually did a good job with it.
Which parcel is it? I can see it.
Yes, it's right,
Is it yellow?
yellow. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And this is incorrect, but that's not conserved. We do own the conservation land there. A landowner has volunteered to donate a 12-acre parcel out here. The town of South Berwick owns 2 parcels to the right of that. And we will talk to them about donating those properties if this goes through. As Dylan says, a habitat block of 3,500 acres here, but the 3 surrounding habitat blocks are total over 14,000 acres. And again, you're 4 or 5 miles from the coast, you're 6 or 7 miles from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This is a very, very developing area down here, but yet we've been able to put together, with Land Main's future help on this, a real block of conservation land. We have a goal of 19,000 acres here, and we might actually achieve that. We're getting close. That was, you put these things out there years ago and you say, not really. But suddenly you look after, 30 years of work and you're up to over 15,000 acres, and it's starting to work out. It's in several focus areas. It's within the focus area of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We were talking about cottontail rabbits. They have designated this as an area for their Great Thicket Wildlife Refuge, and they are actively in this area putting together lands for cottontail management and habitat. And they saw this parcel as one of those possible sites. Since it has already been logged, it has a little bit of a sand and gravel pit on one end that could be remediated for both Blandings and Blandings turtle habitat and cottontail habitat. Both New Hampshire and Maine, of course, it's within an area of statewide ecological significance. Mount Agammon. New Hampshire has actually come over and written a conservation plan for southern Maine, and they have identified this as one of their conservation focus areas because they are working on protecting the Scottsboro River estuary and Great Bay, which they have done like 77,000 acres of work over in the last couple of decades. So this is actually tying into a multi-state work in progress. Let's see. It's a reasonable price for 100 acres, 375 acres, $375,000, and that's only because if you can see down here at the bottom, here's a golf course, and there's an industry. Here's a sand and gravel pit. There's residential houses down there in York. Wichita Road is the end of this road in York, and that's being developed. And the only thing that stopped it from going across is this black line, which is the town line. The town in South Berwick doesn't allow any more building on that road until it gets brought up to town standards. But that's just a zoning change. So we really see this as a one-time opportunity to get this property at a reduced price before, because Eastbrook Timber has been talking to both towns and saying, well, look, I only gotta put a short road in on the York side, so I shouldn't be restricted by Southborough zoning ordinance. So that's what's happening and occurring now. So that makes it sort of, we have like 1,200. Am I out of time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
All right, I filled it.
All right, so questions from the board,
Yeah.
I'll start us off with, is there, support from the municipalities? You have documentation? of that?
Yes, well, I misinterpreted that municipality. I did get a letter from the Conservation Commission and 5 others, and I am presenting to the council, Southborough Town Council this evening.
Oh.
For hopefully they will do an endorsement for, and the conservation is very strong in the community. We did a project with them and LMF, the St. Falls Tidal Water Project, of which the town voted over 80% to contribute $200,000. So there's a lot of support there. So I'm reasonably confident we'll get it.
Tim, as you know, public access is something that we require. Could you be really clear about public access to this project?
Sure.
Whether it's by foot, by vehicle, or what?
Sure. Bennett Road goes all the way through from Witch Trot Road in South Berwick, not to be confused with Witch Trot Road in York, but Witch Trot Road and Bennett Lot Road are one road. And that road was a public road for, since late colonial times. And South Berwick discontinued their Bennett Lot Road, and they legally did it. So they went through the process, they filed a deed, but in that deed, they kept a public access easement, and that was for all recreational uses. So the public has the right to drive through that property. And you can drive through, I don't know if I would have done it last weekend after the rain, but you can drive through all the way through. This property has 1,200 feet of frontage on Bennett Road, but it's only half a mile from the pavement in York, on the York side. So that's where, and that is also drivable. People are driving it daily. There's the stone and gravel facility in there. There's also a composting facility in there, so they get their trucks in there. So it is drivable. It's just not, in York, they didn't do anything. They just never maintained it. They didn't discontinue it, but they didn't maintain it. So the public has always had the rights to use it.
It's a gravel road?
Yes, it's, some of it's improved, up to the gravel pits, they of course improved it with their work, and the rest of it is just a wood,
You have driven it and this property abuts it, and what would you imagine doing to improve access to it? It appears the road isn't in great condition.
No, it's probably not drivable in all seasons. Like, there's a big puddle at the top of a rise, and you wouldn't want to go through over the weekend. But we do have this, the landowner who's donating the property said, he's got on a little bit on the drier side, so he just said, put parking on that one. You can put parking on there a little bit even closer. We own 2 other properties on Bennett Road, and either of them has the road a little bit better too, and we could put parking on those roads. We don't really envision so many parking and access improvements for this. We're seeing this most as the ecological significance of the property, and this is what, IFNW has come down. They came down a year ago. They came down 3 weeks ago and looked at the property, and that's what's getting them excited about this property. So any development plan that we have for the property, we're going to be doing very closely tying in with Maine Fish and Wildlife to see what their goals are for the property. They own land just next to this property, but not this property, so they cannot take ownership. If this property was abutting their land, they would take ownership, but since it doesn't, they're prevented from doing so.
So you would actually park maybe on the Bennett Road and walk down?
You could do it, and you can certainly park on the Witch Trot. Right now, we've been parking driving on the page, walking a half mile,
But
and you can even drive.
there are no trails, or you're not seeing this as a lot of people wanting to hike or do?
Not at this point. This is traditionally used for hunting. Again, all the hunters have told us that one of the things that keeps them from local hunting is not knowing where development is and where development comes from. So they're uncomfortable just necessarily going out there doing hunting. And that was one of the things that sort of stimulated the land trust to try to put blocks of land together. So a hunter could go out there, and feel like he could go out there and repeatedly over the years and find a reasonable, safe place to park.
And is this deer hunting?
Yes. A lot of deer.
Deer.
We need hunters.
Yes.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Noah Pollock, and I'm joined by Laura Rose Day. We're from Seven Lakes Alliance. And I'd like to share with you our proposal for Kennebec Highlands to North Pond Conservation Corridor. This is an opportunity to do some landscape scale conservation in central Maine, kind of an increasingly rare opportunity. In the first phase, our goal is to connect the Kennebec Highlands, one of central Maine's largest, most impressive conservation areas, to a series of other conservation areas and fee holdings that Seven Lakes has acquired over the years through about a 1,700-mile conservation corridor. In the initial phase, our focus is on 3 keystone properties: Phillips, Blaisdell, and Bromet, each of which are worthy of conservation in their own right, but when seen together as part of this landscape, it's a really neat project that I'm excited to be working on. This is a landscape of intact streams, wetlands, and well-maintained forests that serve as the headwaters to Great Pond. The conservation values include water quality is really important to our organization. There's 2.3 miles of streams. That Bromet parcel borders a stream called Robbins Mill, it's a trout A, or a Class A water. You can see from that photo, this is an undeveloped landscape. It's really not that far away from here. It's pretty neat to see that and have opportunity to kind of connect these forested blocks. There's deer wintering habitat. Nearly half the proposed area is mapped as deer wintering habitat. And this is definitely a wildlife corridor. You see signs of wildlife everywhere. Other recreational benefits include recreation. Our proposal includes 2 new trailheads, and there's connections to existing trails on our Mount Phillips property, as well as repurposing the kind of existing kind of logging areas to serve as new parking areas. So this is a landscape which has a room for both people and wildlife. It's already used. This is hikers on the Mount Phillip Trail. The Blaisdell parcel is next to this and will provide a nice view to the north. And when you walk the property, you see signs of wildlife everywhere, and it's definitely a wildlife corridor. This is real, this is a real conservation corridor. In the wintertime, this is riddled with animal tracks and deer bedding areas and pileated woodpeckers. And you talk to the locals there, they're like, yeah, we have to drive carefully on these roads because they know most are crossing these roads here. And so people really get that, and it's kind of validated by the Maine Natural Heritage Program's review. You can see from these maps, basically all of the Blaisdell parcel and the Bromet parcel are mapped as deer wintering habitat. You look at this, you see this is an intact landscape. Each parcel is connected to existing conserved lands. This is the Highlands. This is our Mount Phillip, and that's to the east is a big conservation easement that was donated by a very foresighted landowner in the last few years. So it's definitely a landscape scale effort with great potential for wildlife habitat protection. And we're excited to kind of create this regional connection between the Highlands and our existing holdings as part of a corridor for both people and wildlife. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the project.
Questions? One.
So, Noah, you are talking about this as a corridor, and I see it on here outlined in blue. And so what I'm wondering is, are you already working on these other pieces to connect all of this? Is this likely to happen? Because there's quite a bit of land to make this a real corridor, quite a bit of land that you would need to acquire.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think and the answer is yes. We have been having conversations. One of the select board members is a neighbor. At our meeting where we presented Blaisdell, we had some conversations. And it's a long-term project, and there's a lot of different tools we'll use from easements to even just conversations, hey, you know, your land is part of this corridor. You know, these are the tools that the state has available, from, you know, tree growth to open space to, hey, we can also work with you to conserve the land if you'd like. You know, having this be a focus area, you know, as we know, land is changing hands constantly, you know, so in a long-term view, these properties will come on the market and we'd like to be ready for that. And, you know, some folks, you know, a lot of this will probably stay in private land, but hopefully as part of this larger corridor, you know, it's gonna be a collaborative effort, you know, it doesn't have to all be acquisition, although we certainly will make that a priority. It's a partnership, you know, like conservation is a partnership effort, and so we'll work with the landowners, have those relationships, have that coffee, let them know that, you know, they'll appreciate it, and they do already. They know that their land is part of this corridor, and it's an important thing, so we'll work with them however they want to do, work with us.
Is this land heavily populated? I can't really see from the maps. I mean, is this open land at this point, or are there a lot of houses? Is this a popular place for people to build?
You know, along the road, you can see from these photos, you know, along the road, you're seeing some development, and those are the pinch points. But it really is remarkably undeveloped considering how close it is to here right now. And, you know, and part of it, that's due to, you know, challenging access and limited roads. There's only a few roads that, like one road that goes between each of these, and that's kind of where the development has been. But kind of mapping out this corridor, you can walk it right now through unposted lands. You know, the deer do it, people do it. You know, there's plenty of people that use this landscape as is, as a corridor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, great. All right. Frank. All right, so I'm gonna take these 10 through 7.
We have 6 so we are.
Okay, so we'll break until 11. 5-minute break, sorry, we take 5-minute break. Sorry. 10 of 11.
Till 10 minutes to 11.
10:50, I know I'm so sorry.
I'm turning around.
Yeah.
Are you?
Thank you for all of your work. Yeah, we don't really, yes, it is busier this time of year.
All the other projects everybody else is working on, yeah, you guys have some good projects going on too. That's awesome. It's actually
Coming together?
Yeah, we're trying our best to keep it going. So, yeah, you should, we've got some maps to one Finally, we're starting to.
It's great. Yeah, you know,
That's for you, but stick around.
Yeah, there's so many reasons go around. That's
Lucky you too.
Yeah, thank you.
part of that. I don't know.
Oh, wow. How long did you Oh, I'd love to see it though. Dig it up.
I don't know if it's online, it's still online, it might have one. I don't think it's gonna tell you anything you don't know.
Right.
I will, okay, thanks.
We're looking forward to doing
I just actually see where I work on
like that and take that.
Well, the lower part is where
There's a way I guess we can.
well, we've got from all over here. You go both ways. Yeah, because it's high, you still as well. One that and then we've hit it, so the tide changes. Come down, very deep. Tide goes back. Yeah, it's great because.
I really want to do that. John said, yeah.
Yeah, the two things, we find ways to work together instead of, clashing.
But the last one, maybe.
He put a GoPro on also and just went down. He actually started. The one that likes the young. Go on there and take one.
Boards and chairs.
Well, from where they started.
We have a distribution.
I think, entire function was all.
Can I write my book? Because this is on my, bucket list, but they went into day one and I couldn't get
Yeah, now he didn't narrate it. And they did it, so there's no, it's just quiet. But they have the scenes where. Let's have
No, sorry, I go flow. But this summer's. Of course,
yeah, there's a huge start that he did, there's you start getting more of this, like, I was starting. It's not as bad, so what we did is we went out now, we went out to very. So riding down the high, down the close high, and the big sand kind of area. Yeah, and the other thing you gotta watch for is that the tide is all days that ocean. And, you know, as far as you go upstream, so it says tide all the time. Like it's all the time. There's a clock there, it's so tight. I think about it. Like work it out. Every time I do it, because it's funny, because I've been looking at the tide tables too, like 12 earlier. We'll be on river on your US one. It's still coming in. No, it's still coming in. It's still coming up. Like, because 2 o'clock, I'm still coming up, oh my God. Then,
Other employees.
you know, it's and then you go down the river, it's going out.
I mean, I thought we already.
2 hours down the river, they've been 2 hours within the low tide already. So if you go back down the tide, it's like,
Every year.
you're like the river dropping.
Now figured out by this early for the.
All month long. You know, it's just like it's a work.
Yeah,
But you could definitely do it more. Before you do it, you can talk to people more. Reach out and how I was.
Yeah, make sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah, because we were definitely.
So you'll see that trickle where you're all typing should go.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Versus.
That's the second to last.
So across the. Grasses. Yeah. You use grasses to figure
Well, it's
Yeah, absolutely.
The other river I went to is the Galloway.
Oh my God.
All right. We're gonna come back to order. Thanks everyone for being prompt. Finally, we're gonna continue on with our presentations. We have 6 left, so we're halfway through, we're making good progress. And I think according to my notes, the next project is Kingfield's Black Knuckle.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity to present on Kingfield Black Knuckle Conservation Project. So my name is Lynette Batt. I'm a project manager with the Trust for Public Land, and TPL is the project lead. And we're working in partnership with Maine Bureau of Parks and Lands and the town of Kingfield on this project. So as you all know by now, I'm sure, the project is over 3,600 acre fee acquisition in the town of Kingfield, which has almost no conserved land. So we want to just point that out from the beginning. It's across 3 different parcels. 2 parcels proposed to go to the state of Maine to add to existing state reserve lands. And 1 parcel would go to the town of Kingfield to add to the existing and the only in the region, Kingfield Community Forest, the only community forest in the region. Oh, actually, if you could go back just 1 notch. So in terms of readiness and project budget, the project is very much ready. So we have come to agreement on all the key terms of an option agreement. The option is not yet signed, but we think we're very close. It's undergoing final legal review, and I can confirm that all the key terms of the option agreement are agreed to. And then we also just last week got back a restricted appraisal that was done to Yellow Book standards, so we feel very confident in this appraisal. That appraisal allowed us to update our budget that we had proposed in the application in March. And so you'll see an updated number from 1 million as the LMF request to 1.1 million due to that updated restricted appraisal. And the budget we had put into the application was a placeholder until we got that appraisal back. So we're feeling good about those numbers, and that does include a 10% contingency over the next 2 years in case of an increased appreciation of value. And I realize that it's a very high funding request, but it's also a very leveraged funding request. So we're asking for 25% of the estimated acquisition cost with 75% from Forest Legacy, and we can go ahead. So a lot of unique public benefits here because we have a diverse landscape across 3 parcels with a set of different public benefits and recreational benefits across these parcels. So parcels A and B have, all the 3 parcels have existing public access. Parcels A and B have access via Rapid Stream Road, and that is existing public access that's used. And in addition, because I know the access question will probably come up, we are conveying a legal vehicular public access right-of-way through the retained parcel, which is parcel D. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is part of a broader 8,850 acre conservation project with parcel D being a 5,200 acre easement that is not part of the LMF project, but it is happening concurrently with this project. So a right-of-way would be conveyed through parcel D to provide legal vehicular public access. And then parcels A and B have multi-use recreation trails, snowmobile, ATV trails. There's hunting and fishing on those parcels. Fishing along Rapid Stream and other trout streams on the properties. And then parcel C is the community forest expansion parcel, and that has an existing beautiful hiking trail up to a waterfall. And there would be plans to connect via trails parcel C and the Shiloh Pond Community Forest for an expanded community forest. And that's another major public benefit of this project is an expanded community forest and the public planning process that goes into that. So we'd be doing a series of public meetings with the town. And we do have support from the town of Kingfield. So we can go ahead to ecological. There's also significant ecological values. So this is our conservation context slide. All three parcels are connected to existing conserved lands, but again, not much conserved land in the township of Kingfield itself. Parcel B would be in addition to Mount Abraham State Lands Unit. Parcel A would be in addition to Crocker Mountain State Lands Unit, and Parcel C would again expand that Shiloh Community Forest. So really good connectivity. 1 minute remaining. So the other ecological benefits, it's part of the town's water supply, protected water supply area. It's part of the aquifer, and a natural resources inventory done a few years ago showed potential habitat for over a dozen listed species, and just a diversity of landscape benefits that are underrepresented in conservation in the region. And I will pause there and see if there are questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from you?
I have several. One is, hi Lynette, thank you for your application. One is if there's now a letter of support from the town of Kingfield. I don't think there was at the time of the application.
There is, yeah. So we submitted that, okay. So you should have access to that letter from both the towns. It's from the town manager on behalf of the select board, and then there's also a separate letter from the town community forest committee.
Perfect, yeah. Thank you. And if I'm understanding correctly what you were saying about the vehicular access right of way over parcel B, would that then be what is the guaranteed public access to parcel B?
Yeah, so I didn't have too much time to explain, but if we go, to this slide. So the existing public access is West Kingfield Road to Rapid Stream Road. And this is also, I should have mentioned, the parking for Mount Abraham hiking trail. So as I understand from the state, there's not existing legal public access right of way on that road. There's management access. So we will try as part of this project to get a legal public right of way on Rapid Stream Road. If we can't secure that, then we have secured from the landowner a public right of way on Day Pond Road to the ITS, which would access parcel B from the north.
Perfect, okay. And last question quickly. I know that all the match is Forest Legacy, and has that application already been submitted? And just thinking about the federal landscape.
Absolutely,
for that program,
yeah, good question. So all signs are pointing to there will be a Forest Legacy round this year, so we're planning to apply this summer. We did submit an application last year, but we put that on pause because the landowner was looking at other funding sources. So we had submitted to the state, it received positive state review, it was going to be advanced to the region, and then we pulled it. So we're going to resubmit this year, and we do have indications that Forest Legacy, the standard Forest Legacy track should be moving forward. The IRA funds are maybe a little more questionable, but we're hopeful that the standard track will move, yeah.
Thank you.
And it was about Forest Legacy also, but do you have a contingency plan if Forest Legacy does not go through?
It's a very good question with the federal funding landscape as it is. I think we would have to revisit what other federal funds might be a possibility. Community forest program, of course, would be a fit, but that's kind of in a somewhat similar bucket as Forest Legacy. Private funding is a possibility, but the conservation easement, parcel D, is entirely funded by private funds, so we could make that a larger fundraising campaign. But I think we'll revisit that potential if Forest Legacy doesn't move. I think our first approach would be to wait and see if Forest Legacy reappears next year. And if that doesn't look hopeful, then we would look at probably a private fundraising route together with our partners. So I didn't mention Forest Society of Maine would be the easement holder on parcel D. And we are doing a joint fundraising campaign with them for the overall project. So, yeah.
Barbara?
So Lynette, parcel A and parcel B would be conveyed to the state, And so they would be responsible, that's the Bureau of Public Lands?
Yes.
They would be responsible for stewardship of those two parcels.
Yes.
Parcel C would be conveyed to the town of
The town.
Kingfield.
Yeah.
With an easement on it, or how,
It would not have an easement, but there would be deed restrictions, of course, from the LMF project agreement and then also through the forest legacy mechanism.
okay, so
It would be protected.
Kingfield turns over its
Absolutely.
selectmen very
Yeah.
frequently. And I guess the other question I have is, what's their record of stewardship from your perspective of the Shiloh Pond Community Forest?
Well, I don't know if I can phone a friend here, because we have Brent in the
Sure.
audience with High Peaks Alliance, who they have been instrumental in maintaining the community forest. My perspective is it's been great,
Okay,
but I'll let.
I'd like to hear.
What was the question, Harper?
The stewardship of Shiloh Pond, the existing town property. As part of the acquisition with Trust for Public Land of Shiloh Pond, we not only hold a road maintenance fund, we hold a stewardship fund. And we've supplied staffing to get the committee going, so there's a 9-person committee that manages it. And they're a resourceful group. Instead of spending any of the stewardship money, they've gotten probably $10,000 to $20,000 in donated gravel, replaced bridges, built a new trail to the back of the property as a waterfall, and really kept the local flavor of it. One of their biggest learning was they didn't have to just make it another public reserve land. They could make it what was appropriate and what the townspeople really wanted for themselves. So I think it's been a really good success, and there's been no issues, and I think that's given the town confidence to consider this.
I think roads built, trails improved, or trails built, roads improved, and stewardship funds that were set aside 3 years ago when that project was done are still in place, and they've been able to do the work with donated and volunteers. So we would be upsizing that, so this includes an estimated, at least we're hoping to fundraise more than this, 100,000, to supplement that stewardship fund for the much larger community forest, because there'll of course be more, road, well, the same road, but continued maintenance of that road. There's a bridge and then potential for trail building in the community forest. So there is that infrastructure already from the Shiloh Pond Community Forest, and we would revisit kind of the structure of that group. Does it need to be a bigger committee? Does there need to be more diversity on the committee? But that committee has agreed, and in their letter of support, which came after the application, they said that they were willing to manage it as a larger community forest.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Next up. Roger Hill.
Great. Well, thanks for having me here today. I'm here to present the Mosier Hill Falls project in Farmington, Maine, on behalf of the High Peaks Alliance. I'm the executive director of the High Peaks Alliance, and we work to keep this area wild and accessible. And so it's a 200-acre parcel right on the outskirts of Farmington. And when you get there, it's just unknown spot on the side of the road. You drive up, you park in the little pull-off, and you hear the cascading falls. You go in there, and there's a beautiful 45-foot tall waterfall. And that flows down into some emergent wetlands. There's inland wading bird habitats. We have an option agreement secured. We have a land surveyor ready to go out there in the next few months, and we're asking $201,000. So I wanted to start with a story today from the landowner who we cold called because he was a priority in some of our reports that I think you all got a copy of. And we met out on the property and we walked down the falls, and he says he's been having stewardship issues for a number of years, and he's considered posting and closing the property over the years because people have campfires and there's no one taking care of the trails and there's so much use. But right at that moment, a couple comes bounding up out of the gorge, hand in hand, smiling, And the lady exclaims, "I was just proposed to." And so he decided that now is not the time to go to the property. That there's some good public benefits there, but he really didn't want to sell the property, but he saw that conservation was one of the only outcomes he wanted to see for the property. And so I think this story and our work kind of pushed him to be able to willing to sell the property. And otherwise, there's no other conservation group that would be willing to take this project on. And this is based off 2 years of extensive surveying for the high peaks. I gave you guys all the second report in my application, but we mapped 1,700 miles of trail. We sent a technician over a year to go over 130 locations of the region. We have great data on a lot of the ecological resources, but we don't have great data on what our community values. And we had them look at the condition, how much use there was, and of these 130 locations, Mosier Hill Falls was one of the top 20 that were not prioritized, but were in that bucket. And so that's out of the High Peaks Initiative, which is multiple organizations listed in that report we gave you. But this project itself had over 19 organizations sign on different letters of support, from the health to the economics to the local town. These have fit all those priorities. I hope you read some of those. We also got a great vote of support from Dan Grenier, BPL, who went there as a UMF student, and now look where he is. I wanted to also talk about, we can go to the next slide, Mark. Whoever's doing it, thank you. This area is really underserved when it comes to LMF and conserved lands in general. If you look at the GAP group that your board has gotten and I helped participate in, one of the outcomes was there's not anyone to be submitting proposals from these next to the woods. And that's why there's a big gap below the unorganized territories and above all the rich landscape land trust heritage we have. If you look at that map, what's kind of interesting, this project's right here. It is in New England, the lowest percent of conserved land and lower percent of income. And so what's available for funding too is of the utmost concern for us to do any projects in this neck of the woods. Franklin County is distressed under NRBC categories, and that means high rates of poverty, unemployment, out-migration, and most severely and persistently economically distressed and underdeveloped. And our future is our recreation. With 45% of the home ownership in Franklin County is seasonal recreational, and there's a large demand for building and parcelization. Just next to Mount Blue, 5,900 acres is now all 12 to 48 acre lots. So our approach, being resource strapped, is to focus on the community gems, the places that our kids go to, your kids go to, people visit, people send their in-laws to, because that will build the next generation for us, but also build local capacity in a smart and measured way. But I really appreciate your time today. I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, any questions from the board?
And I'll go on for another 5 minutes. But really, it has a great public access. It's on a town road. It has a diversity of wildlife and community benefits. And one of the plans is to put an appropriate widened parking lot out. We're getting a trail designer to do an accessible trail. There's only one accessible trail to any kind of waterfall in the state of Maine, and it's like 6 foot tall in South Portland. So that's going to be an undertaking, but it's one of these places that I think would really benefit from that kind of improvements.
Yeah, Barbara? Raise some questions.
Earlier, when you started to tell your story about the current landowner and his being a little discouraged about how people were utilizing it, it does raise the question about how do you prevent a property from being overloved. And since you're from the High Peaks, I'll just give you Tumbledown as an example. It's not the Tumbledown I climbed when I was 8 years old, at braided trails and things like that. How do you deal with that? And how would you, this is done, you know, if this gets approved and it'll get more visibility. and more people will want to see this beautiful waterfalls, how are you going to deal with keeping it loved in the appropriate way?
Yeah, I mean, Tumbledown's a great example of, great conservation effort, not a great stewardship effort, long-term, because it's 70,000 hikers that hit it every year. So part of the issues with Mosier Hill is, and that's in an LMF report, Mac, but the access on Mosier Hill, one, the town just dumped a big gravel lot to have a couple parking spots without the landowner's permission. He's like, never knew how that, so like, they've like put in a parking lot, and then it's right on the side of the stream. And so in seasonal, it gets wet and mucky. And so like, there's very basic improvements of moving the parking lot, hardening the trail to the major overlook, and then just having an active presence. Part of the plan is not to put trails over every inch of this property because there's incredible wetland complexes and wildlife down further that, you know, we could put miles of bog in, but that would be a stewardship concern. So High Peaks Alliance is really focused on growing stewardship. We're contracting 3 days a week at Tumbledown this year to try to address some of those issues too. So we're not focused on just what's important to us, but what's important to the region, because that's, you know, growing stewardship.
Thank you. Similar question that I had to Lynette about, since the Community Forest Fund and Forest Legacy are sort of, you know, sister funds. I think you haven't applied yet, is that correct?
No, we've been applied to, but within last week, the guy who runs it has quit, so it's not a good sign for that fund, for sure.
So just thinking about alternative, have you thought about an alternative approach?
A few of the things that insulate us there, one, LMF would give a lot of people confidence in our neck of the woods that we're on the right track and halfway there. That being said, another 200,000 is not another 4 million or whatever, you know, it's a lot different scale. And so we have had interest in some foundations. We're applying, we have an option agreement that extends through 27. So we really have a generous amount of time to figure out. And I like to think we're betting on projects that are well vetted in the community. It's something that's well loved. And so hopefully that will go well. Downtown Farmington, we've successfully fundraised for a $3 million bridge that's getting replaced right now. So, I mean, we have a track record of being able to raise funds too.
Thank you, that's great.
Okay, any other questions on the board?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Flora and I'm really pleased to be here today to talk to you about IFNW's Jackman Addian Deer Wintering Area proposal. As you all know, this project is located in the town of Jackman and in Addian Township, and it encompasses 398 acres. We're excited about the different features of this project, including the deer wintering area habitat, over 3 miles of water frontage on Bigwood Pond, Sandy Stream, and Moose River, and recreational opportunities to be secured for the public here. If funding is awarded, IFNW will establish a new wildlife management area in Region E, which is one of 7 regions in the state and one with the fewest wildlife management areas currently. Conservation of this property directly addresses the need for deer habitat protection that's outlined in and prioritized in law. This project includes both primary and secondary winter shelter for deer, along with available browse, and aerial surveys from severe winters, along with more recent surveys, show deer use in the area and demonstrate the importance of this project. The project also protects nearly 40 acres of inland wading bird and waterfowl habitat and a total of about 100 acres of wetland, along with frontage on the Sandy Stream, which is suitable brook trout and wood turtle habitat. IFNW management aims to enhance forest age, class, and species diversity, benefiting not only deer, but other species as well. And in addition to the habitat values, the Jackman Addian Deer Wintering Area project offers exceptional recreational values, really in the heart of Jackman, including access for traditional uses such as hunting, fishing, and trapping. Deer-focused management by the department is likely to improve hunting success not only on this property, but the goal would be to improve hunting success elsewhere as well. And it's worth noting that the Northern Border Canoe Trail, along with an established canoe route by the local Border Riders Snowmobile Club, go right along the boundary of this property. And with over 3 miles of frontage on various different water bodies, the property currently can be accessed by water. There's a public boat launch about a mile to the south on Bigwood Pond, and there's also, we didn't include this in the proposal, but we realized after, there's also a hand carry launch, a public launch just up or down the Moose River from the property, less than 2,000 feet away. An access road from the north currently exists. You can see here, there's a right of way along that access road coming in from the north, and a road has been built up to where the gray ends and the white dots begin. This would be our main access road for management and one public access option. Although the language in this right of way currently is for all lawful purposes, we hope to amend the easement to include explicit public access language, but we haven't yet started on that work. As you read in the proposal, a conservation easement covers a portion of the property. However, it was one of the first working forest easements in Maine, and according to the easement holder in their letter of support, not as robust an easement as might be written today. The easement doesn't prevent development, nor does it secure public access. So if not purchased by IF&W, the property will be harvested. There is a harvest plan that exists, and we believe this would degrade the habitat values that we hope to protect. So for these reasons, we think the need for conservation here is great. And I will also mention, since I have a little extra time, that after we put together the proposals, we got additional letters of support from the Jackman Moose River Chamber of Commerce, the town of Jackman, the Forest Hills Consolidated School principal, and local businesses. And just one other thing, since I've got a little extra time. As I said, this is really in the heart of Jackman. And so if you're on 201 and you're looking at the Forest Hills Consolidated School, the treetops you see in the background are this property. So although separated by water, it really is right in town. That's it for me.
Thank you, Flora. Any questions from the board? Barbara?
It's on the northern forest canoe corridor. Are there campsites on that shore right now for the use of either the Bow River trip or the northern forest? No.
No,
the landowner didn't permit any access.
So it is open to the public now, and I was talking to someone who has camped on this property in the past, but I don't know that that is something that the current landowner is endorsing or advertising, and that wouldn't be the sort of thing that we would envision as something to happen out on this property, but certainly the canoe trail goes right along it, so maybe if poor weather conditions force people to find a place to find safety, this may have provided that in the past.
It's slightly tangential, but the existing conservation easement, what does it provide?
Yeah, so I have the list here, and the easement holder is Forest Society of Maine, and they were really helpful in helping us understand what this easement entails. It's from the mid-80s, so that kind of gives you the context of when this was drafted. So no airstrips, no crushing, smelting, et cetera, of mined materials, no mining that would disturb slopes, mined land must be reclaimed, and no railroad expansion except for the use for mining and timber. And no structures or mining that can be seen from the Adian Pond shore or islands. So there might be a small little bit of this property that can be seen from the Adian Pond shore or islands, but probably not. So really not a whole lot of restrictions at all. I should also mention though, that in the past, in 2023, a concept plan for this area was not renewed. And under that concept plan, it's my understanding that development wasn't allowed, but since that concept plan was not renewed, that protection no longer exists.
Is there any way to find out, well, I'm sure there is a way, is it possible to find out what price per acre the landowner has already been paid for the initial conservation easement? Because when I think of the cost of, I understand it's not LMF dollars that would be going to it, but I just sort of would like to better understand the cost per acre of the overall protection of this property. And I understand it's 1980s dollars and that's not today's dollars, but is that information that can be gotten?
I don't know that information, and I think that it would be difficult to really parse out because the easement covers all of Aggie Township. And I only talked about the restrictions on this one piece that we're it doesn't cover all of Aggie Township, it covers a lot of it. And the restrictions I talked about are only for this parcel that we're interested in here, so we could try to get that information, but I think it would be really hard to kind of understand what portion of any sort of fee might be attributed to this parcel. We are currently getting an appraisal done and we hoped to have it today to be able to talk to you about, but we don't have it yet. And that of course will take into account the restrictions that exist here. And for those of you who are looking at the numbers, you may have seen that our request changed from the project inquiry. And that was because at the time of project inquiry, we didn't realize just how limited the development potential, we didn't realize the extent of the easement. We thought that maybe it offered more protection than it does. So our estimate changed a little bit when we realized all that really could happen here. That to say, it's only an estimate and we hope to have an appraisal really soon.
Thank you. So, Flora, this parcel is owned by Carrier Timberlands. And do I understand that they own a lot more than just this parcel? Just this parcel is the one that has been negotiated to come up for sale at this time?
That's right, yes. And this is the reason that this parcel is in front of you today is because the regional biologist, Doug Kane, who maybe some of you know, who I was hoping was going to be able to join remotely, but he has a very busy day today and can't. This is a parcel that he has recognized as having important deer values and one that he really was hoping to find a way to protect for deer values. So we have not discussed anything beyond this, and really this is because of its importance as deer wintering habitat. And you can see that it abuts deer habitat there's mapped deer habitat within the parcel and then also to the north as well. So there's a connectivity component to this project also.
I think that's it. Thank you. Flora.
Try to lower Beth up here.
Oh, want to be up there?
I'm here to talk about one other proposal today. So the second project I'd like to talk to you about is Mount Harris project in the town of Dixmont, and I'm joined here by Beth Schwartz, a wildlife biologist for IFNW, and also the chair of the Dixmont Conservation Commission. This 688 acre project is located in the heart of Dixmont, and it was brought to IFNW by the Dixmont Conservation Commission as a conservation opportunity. The project encompasses Mount Harris, a 1,200 foot tall mountain and prominent landmark in Dixmont and the surrounding area. And the parcel is dominated by mountain slopes and a hardwood forest. Howes Pond, a pond providing unmapped waterfowl habitat, is located in the center of the parcel, and some of the later maps you'll be able to see, and I think there's a picture as well. And this pond is surrounded by the Mount Harris ridgeline that you can see there. There's also another wetland on the southern boundary of the parcel that has hosted a great blue heron colony in the past. There's over 100 acres, or around 100 acres of mapped deer wintering area on the project, and 99% of this almost 700 acre parcel contains geophysical settings that are underrepresented on conserved lands in the northeast. And according to MNAP, the topography and soils present here could support rare plants. So there hasn't been a site visit by MNAP staff yet, but we really are excited for that to happen because of their comments. Mount Harris has been open to the public and traditionally used by local residents for generations. And this would secure public access for wildlife dependent activities here. Additionally, the Dixmont Gold Crest Trail Riders, which is a local snowmobile club named after Mount Harris, maintain 2 miles of snowmobile trails on the property, which loop off of ITS 83. Easily accessible from Bangor, Pittsfield, Belfast, Newport, and Hampton, this project addresses IFNW goals to connect people with nature and to conserve land that diversifies recreational opportunities within 1 hour of population centers. The Maine Forest Service, and actually you can see the parcel here, the Maine Forest Service owns a small parcel on the Mount Harris summit, and the Forest Service maintained a fire tower and watchman's camp there until the 1990s. I'm assuming this was due to the fact that the views extend from Scudic Mountain to Maine's western mountains. The fire tower has since been removed, but the cement base still remains, and the Forest Service provided a letter of support for the project, as have the town selectmen, over 64 local residents, local organizations, and businesses. In the recent past, the property was heavily harvested, although steeper slopes and a buffer around House Pond were not touched. A woods road was improved to House Pond and around House Pond. There's even a short paved section, and an existing gravel pit, which is excluded from the parcel shown here, but is now part of this project. That an existing gravel pit was expanded. So human impact here is not subtle, but we see Mount Harris as an exciting conservation opportunity in a portion of Maine with limited conservation, not only to address a gap in IF&W's wildlife management area system, but also conservation land in Maine in general. And so this, as I said, addresses a gap in conservation holdings, but it also is within a 3,000 acre undeveloped habitat block. So there's a connectivity component to this project as well. And because I have a little more time, I'll also tell you that in between the proposal and now we've received additional letters of support, including from the Dixmont Historical Society. This is actually the project that was previously owned by the town and is no longer owned by the town. And Beth can talk about why the town sold it, if you ask. There's also, we also received a letter of support from the Great Farm Rifle Club, the Maine Forest Service, and mainly Apple's a local business.
Thank you, Laura. And then I think Barbara might have a question.
Well, that was my question, because this is an example, to Jody's point, of a town selling this to a LLC, ostensibly, I guess, someone who wanted to do harvesting on the property. But why did the town get rid of its community forest?
Well, this happened quite a while ago. It was actually town acquired back in the 30s, when there was a corporation that was going to develop a resort on the ridge line. And the Great Depression, because of the Great Depression, they went bankrupt and the resort never happened. The town took it over as tax acquired property. But in the 1950s, my understanding is they sold the property in order to get funds to build the Dixmont school.
To build what?
To build a local school.
Oh.
So it all happened before I was born. Other than that one small parcel that they sold to the Maine Forest Service for the lookout tower, it was then sold to private owners in the 1950s, early 1950s. No one was thinking about conservation back then.
Has a purchase and sale been executed now?
It has, yes. There've been a few developments since we submitted the proposal. A purchase and sale of restricted appraisal came back at $840,000, so the budget is slightly different, but we didn't increase our LMF request. And we actually just yesterday received the draft survey, which we haven't had a minute to totally dig into yet, but due diligence is moving along.
Any other questions?
So the matching funds do now exceed 50%.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Thanks. Great, thank you, Laura. All right, Noise Mountain, is that right?
Hi, welcome. Good morning. My name is Casey Bailey, and I'm here on behalf of Western Foothills Land Trust with our proposal for Noise Mountain Extension in Greenwood. This project is an extension of existing conserved land at Noise Mountain Preserve. Greenwood is a town of about 40 square miles and about 800 people, located in central Oxford County in between the larger towns of Bethel and Norway, north and south. The town is characterized by several small mountains with peaks ranging from 1,000 feet to 1,600 feet, and several large ponds straddle the town. Noise Mountain Preserve is one of Western Foothills Land Trust's more popular preserves. We have a high car count there. It's very close to downtown Norway, and the hike up to the summit of Noise Mountain offers pretty spectacular views of Lake Peninsula and the surrounding mountains. There's also a historic recreational quarry on Noise Mountain that has attracted a lot of rat hounds from near and far. The extension would offer additional terrain for multi-use trails and would also protect another historic quarry for recreational use. The parcel, this is a couple pictures of the quarry, the hiking quarry. It's a unique quarry in that it has a pretty narrow entrance and then opens into a round bowl at the end. Front to back, it's about 80 to 100 feet, and the back end is maybe about 35 feet deep. That last picture on the right is from the top looking down in. The parcel was heavily logged in about 2018, and I think if you go back one slide, you can see some of the views that timber cut has revealed. And so we're hoping that now is a good time to keep those views preserved and build in some trails. The goals of the project are to provide the additional recreational opportunities to the existing preserve, to permanently protect the 69 acres of a 1,850 acre undeveloped block, to protect lands that are above average in climate resilience, to protect brook trout habitat and water quality of Niles Brook, which flows into the Little Androscoggin River, which is the first picture, and also to protect habitat for other woodland species, including 6 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Priority Bird species. The project has been supported by the town of Greenwood, both their Board of Selectmen and the Conservation Committee, the Oxford Hills Chamber of Commerce, and Healthy Oxford Hills, which is a community health organization. We have a survey engaged, which is expected by the end of June. We had hoped to have an appraisal well underway at this point, but ran into a few hiccups and are just about to engage a new appraiser who expects the appraisal work to be completed in June as well. And we have had title work done. One question of this property was whether it had independent access from the north. And our title search at least confirms that that is not insurable access. So access will be from the Noise Mountain Preserve, existing preserve, from the road frontage is here. It's a pretty well-established old county road that traverses our existing preserve and accesses that parcel quite easily. And Western Foothills Land Trust has due diligence funds in hand, matching funds. We're expecting a fairly sizable bargain sale from the seller. And then we would also be looking at private fundraising for our remaining funds. Our estimated purchase price is in the $75,000 to $80,000 range. That is a pure estimate, possibly a little hopeful given the title results, but we have a very committed seller who has been holding this parcel for us to buy for several years. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
The quarry, the remnant quarry, how was the access to that quarry?
So it is located right in the southwest corner here. The historic county road, if you look closely at your map, you can kind of see it, and it leads right to it, right by it. And as you kind of just cross over the boundary line, and the high walls, high side walls of the quarry are visible, maybe about 12 feet across.
What were they quarrying?
It was a feldspar quarry in the 30s. You're going to test my geology knowledge when it could go beyond that, but there is pegmatite. There's a whole bunch of different types of minerals that I listed them all in the application if you want to know more.
I'm an ultrabiologist, it's okay, it's all right.
I've been told that it does, although none of us at Western Foothills have tested this, but it does fluoresce under UV in the dark. So we think it would be a really interesting, not only for the recreational value, but educational as well, tying in with the Mineral Gem Museum in Bethel to allow access to that. I've been told that there have been crystals that came out of it, like precious gem crystals, but there's a reason that nobody's pouring it anymore, is that, anything that was of value, I think I've understood that the vein dips. And so recreational use would be hand tools, just picking, or mostly kind of quartz crystals. If you go back to the pictures, I think it's the last slide. Yeah, you can see how it stacks, and there's different kinds of intrusions. Fairly mossy, one would kind to see a little bit more.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. We move on to the last presentation. Let us know.
All right, thank you for hanging in there for this last one. My name is Margaret Gerber. I'm the Director of Conservation, and I'm representing the Brunswick-Thompson Land Trust today. And I'm very pleased to be presenting this project to you all. We are pursuing fee acquisition of an 84-acre parcel in Brunswick, Maine. This is part of the Pleasant Hill Conservation Corridor, as it abuts an existing 331 acres that are already conserved along Pleasant Hill Road in Brunswick. You can see there on the map. The property is the last and largest remaining unprotected sandplain grassland in Cumberland County, and perhaps the easternmost breeding site of the grasshopper sparrow, which is a state-listed endangered species. The Brunswick-Thompson Land Trust will take sole fee ownership of the hill property, and we do, as of last week, have a signed memorandum of understanding with Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to manage the property primarily for protection of natural sandplain grassland nesting birds and benefit associated species of concern. So we have that MOU signed, and they're also contributing to the project in addition to being a sponsor. As part of that MOU agreement, we will be writing a management plan prior to closing on the property that states that managing the property for grass nesting birds would be the primary conservation value. And that will be reviewed by IFW prior to closing. While the property will be managed primarily for ecological conservation purposes, it also is a very important project that helps protect permanent public access to 84 acres of open space. It's located directly to the west of Brunswick's largest affordable housing community. It's also directly abutting Brunswick High School. So currently, as you can see on this map, there's about a mile of trail connections to 5 miles of existing trails located on the conservation acres to the north. This property has informally been used by the public for many years. It also has been used by the high school informally for many years. Teachers already take their students out to the property for research projects, and this would be a wonderful opportunity to support that and formalize those relationships. In addition to passive recreation, as well as the ecological benefits of this property, it has been under commercial organic blueberry production for the last 15 years. Prior to that, it was managed by a state producer, not organically, but in the last 15 years, the methods used by this local farmer has made it possible for the recovery of vulnerable species, including grasshopper sparrows, as well as rare sedges, including cloth sedge, which is also listed as an endangered species in Maine. This natural community type is maintained through disturbance, mowing, or fire to maintain it as open, as well as invigorate fire-adaptive species. The organic blueberry production that's been taking place supports this necessary disturbance to ensure it remains open as sandplain grassland, and has also been beneficial to the recovery, as noted. Let's see, in terms of, I skipped over this earlier, so apologies, but in terms of project readiness, we have a purchase and sale agreement already signed and are hoping to close by the end of this calendar year if possible. We've secured our matching funds and have those in hand, so we're ready to go, so to speak, and very excited to pursue this. We also have an appraisal in hand, that's Yellow Book standard, and we will update that prior to closing by this fall and are about to have a survey underway. So I will stop there to allow for questions.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Any questions from the board?
Thank you for the presentation. It's mentioned in the project description that the property has significance for the Wabanaki Nation, and I'm wondering if they were consulted with to find out if they have an interest in owning the property?
We have not consulted with them specifically in terms of ownership. We have partnered actually with the local farmer who currently leases the property to harvest blueberries on the portion of the Sand Plain grassland that's located on the adjacent conserved land to donate harvested blueberries to be distributed to the local indigenous community. But we have not consulted them specifically on ownership of this property. But in the future, I think we're certainly open to, if a successor organic blueberry producer, couldn't be found, or if there was interest in partnering with the land trust, we'd be very open to working with local Wabanaki community to manage this property.
I've been hearing about Sand Plain grasslands in Brunswick for a long time, but it was always at the air station. So, which is a little further east. So what is, to what extent of the values you're trying to protect here are already represented there? And are they protected there? I mean, the endangered sedge you mentioned, is it at the Brunswick Naval Air Station site, or?
I believe it is. I'm not 100% positive, so don't quote me on that. I know that grasshopper sparrows were previously documented at the naval site, but that population has since blinked out and isn't there anymore, is my understanding. This property is part of what was once about 140-acre Sand Plain grassland that has been broken up over time by the construction of the high school. Brunswick Thompson Land Trust currently has conserved about 21 acres. So it is smaller than what's present on the naval station, but it certainly supports a number of endangered species, and clearly, even though smaller, it's supporting grasshopper sparrow population.
Do they successfully breed there?
They were documented by IFNW staff last June as.
I looked at the records as they're singing, but that doesn't, they were not confirmed that breeding there during the 5-year atlas.
Yes, was the key. Yeah, I mean, moving forward, this will certainly be the best test of that. I know the grasshopper sparrows, again, not confirmed to be breeding, but were sighted in the 21 acres north of this parcel following the prescribed burn. So certainly moving forward, the hope is to be documenting this on an annual basis, working with IFNW to make sure we are actively supporting that population.
Are you concerned, you mentioned the access from the existing trail system, are you concerned about people and their dogs interacting with the grassland birds?
Dogs are always an issue. Dogs are always an issue. We certainly plan to install signage, and if you turn back 1 or 2 slides just to the trail map. As you can see, here is an informal perimeter trail. This is also used frequently by the public on the property, as well as this one. So we would be trying to certainly sign the property so that folks are aware of the nesting birds. And in our experience at the budding Crystal Spring Farm property, signage, and education is the most successful tool in making sure people know why we're asking them to leash their dogs and stay on trail. So that will certainly be implemented here.
Thank you.
Margaret, You didn't talk about Muir Brook, but this borders this whole property, correct? It's sort of the headwaters up here in Crystal.
Yes, so that stream shown is Great Gully Brook or stream, depending who you're talking to. And that flows right into McCoy Bay, statewide ecological area of significance. And this property does provide about 1,800, I believe, feet of buffer to that stream, which is documented as having wild brook trout in it. So that is certainly a huge benefit of this conservation project.
And I'm assuming any agricultural work that we do on this property would not in any way adversely affect.
Correct.
The headwaters here.
Yes, that is why organic only is certainly the standard, and there's that natural buffer, riparian buffer of about 6 acres of forest there that borders and is found on the gully that leads to the stream. But absolutely that setback would be certainly required.
All right, thank you very much, Martha.
Thank you all.
So that concludes our presentations. And I think we can accept the motion to adjourn. Second, okay, we are adjourned. So I think our plan is, we're back here Thursday, not here though, in the other building. Okay,
That's Mark Watt, we're in the Amanda building.
Oh, sorry.
We're in Carl's building.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, 9 o'clock and on Thursday. And the agenda for that is,
I gotta give you a new agenda. I'll give you a new agenda for that, because I've got a executive session. Great.
Laura and I need to be in legislature for some work sessions on Tuesday. You guys usually do, I can be here for the first hour. So
you can send a proxy. We changed that. So in the past, when we were voting, you couldn't send a proxy, but we've changed the legislation. I think that's right.
my proxy would be at the legislature as well.
Yes.
I bet she is.
Well, I mean, we'll have your support.
Yep.
Right, so we can consider that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any particular,
Yeah.
torch to carry
Right,
for this
yeah.
review, but is that okay for the process?
I don't see why not. I mean, I could see why not. I could see why not. I could see not being available to change your mind. The conversation is really important. I don't know. Do you want me to check with, Lauren?
Well, no, I mean, we've had meetings where I've not been able to participate in the voting.
Oh, the voting you go, I thought,
Yeah, no, we
can
can-
we use his paper scores? Can we
Yeah.
incorporate his scores? I don't know. That's what I don't know.
Oh, I'm also happy to relatively uninformed scores, so. First round for me, so I mean, again, I'm okay with whatever,
I mean, I think we can, you can participate in the conversation while you're able to be here, and then we can just have your score sheet and make sure that we're not, that it's not crazy different than what our consensus is, or if it is, then, LMF staff will update you.
I wonder in terms of the order that we undertake them, if there was some that your scoring
Sure.
differed a lot from the staff scoring, there might be an issue there, we might handle them
That's good.
first.
That's a good.
That's a good, and we staff will know that, when you hand in your scores today, Jason will know, oh, these are definitely at odds, and so we can order the conversations for scoring purposes for those here. Yeah, so.
And Laura, speaking of handing the scores, so you can hand in the paper scores, but I recall there was an option to help Jason by
Email them.
putting them in an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, there was.
And
You didn't have an Excel spreadsheet.
No.
Okay, so there isn't then, I think, is probably the quickest way, just because I have to go to the legislature. I won't be able to do a lot of work to
Okay.
set you up.
I just,
So,
I missed it.
I'm sorry, Jason, you're gonna get a bunch of paper. I think,
Can we,
I could,
you wanna email them some Excel spreadsheets?
we have all of the summary sheets in Excel format. I could send out an email to everybody with those as attachments. Anybody wants to wait on that, or if you want to give me handwritten scores right now, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
I was trying to do them and they were protected in a way that I
The
could.
ones in the SharePoint were protected. The ones in SharePoint, the staff score part was protected. The other part was not supposed to be protected.
It was all locked.
It'd be
Oh,
nice if there was
geez.
just one Excel spreadsheet that could be sent with all the, projects, and we just keep them all.
You know, and that's what Max said too.
I'll see what I can do,
Yeah.
and without taking the whole afternoon to do it, so that you have time to actually do the scoring.
We have time to score, yeah.
And like I said, I'm happy to take paper score sheets too, kind of whatever's easiest for you guys.
I'm happy to give you paper score.
Sorry.
I've simplified mine because I've only put down points where I differed from the staff.
That's it. If you're done with your paper score sheets,
Oh, yeah.
I'll take them. There's no point in making you type them into Excel. I
I
can do
have
that.
notes and stuff on mine, so.
You know what, if you hand them to Jason, he will make copies. Jason, if they hand you their paper score sheets, we'll make copies and give them a copy back, or email a copy back. That's the thing.
I can pick up this email.
It'd be better than me trying to scan it on my phone, that's not great.
What's your last name?
Ulay, Beulay.
Okay.
So would you prefer getting them now, or do you want me to take them back and scan them to you?
If you're done with them, I'll take them now.
Okay.
And your agreement is coming really. Oh, it's right there, oh, thank you. Oh, it's not coming, it's right there, thank you.
Is there anybody who would like the Excel sheets, or is everybody going to do paper this time?
I'm happy to give you my handwritten sheets.
Happy to-
The best intentions.
Can you describe Thursday's meeting, what happens in executive session, what's the distinction?
Yes, we had some clarification from the AG's office on what we can do in executive session and what we can't. So I think, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, is that we as a board will review the scores in public. Any changes to the scores, I think this should be higher, Barbara, I think this should be lower, we'll come to consensus for the scores. And then we'll go into executive section. In the executive session, we discuss funding for future projects. And then we will come out of executive session, and then the funding and for the funding recommendation, and then the board will vote in the public on the funding that we recommended or developed during the executive session. Can't take any votes during the executive session, so we'll come up with a funding proposal and then bring that to the back of the public. Is that about right?
Exactly right, yeah.
My first time, so, I mean, as a
And I have a brand new motion that our AAG reworked for us. So anyway, this is what we said.
And has there ever been a minimum score established below which funding is not awarded?
not in my history,
Well,
I think it has in the past.
Yeah, and the consensus, usually it happens kind of organically, and we talk about scores, and then you'll say, okay, you make the decision in the moment, you may decide we're not gonna score, we're not gonna find anything below X, but no going into it.
But I would say, Billy, that in the past, say the previous commissioner in my seat had a personal, philosophy that he would not support funding anything that scored below a certain whatever, but that was his, his prerogative, not a board.
Thank you.
And look at the time.
I mean, 7 minutes.
Oh, I know there's something most important.
Thank you, all right, thank you, everyone, thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much.
I know. Sorry, I didn't
That's sitting down
See you Thursday.
He's